Hey everybody, my name is Taylor Glenn and this is my channel Taylor Tries, where I try new things and I try to teach you new things. And today I'm going to teach you a juggling trick called CHOPS. And I'm going to teach you both with balls and with clubs. CHOPS is a really fun trick that you can learn after learning a few 3-ball tricks or 3-club tricks. And it's great because you can do it with both balls and clubs, and it looks extremely different, in my opinion, depending on which prop you're using. They're essentially the exact same trick. I do think that clubs are a little bit harder and have a couple extra flair things that I'm gonna talk about in this tutorial. But if you wanted to learn clubs over balls, you can absolutely do that, even though I think that learning it with balls is probably a little bit easier. So I'm gonna simultaneously teach both balls and clubs at the same time throughout this tutorial. Follow along with whatever prop you wanna learn. Before we jump into it too much, I wanna take a second and thank everyone who is a member of my Otter Club over on Patreon. It is because of you that I'm able to make these tutorials for everyone else, so thank you so much. If you're interested in joining the Otter Club, it's as little as $2 a month and you get access to all sorts of exciting stuff. Members of my Patreon also get an extended version of this tutorial where I teach how to do outside chops, which is a fun variation on the regular inside chops. So if you want access to that, go join my Patreon. You can watch this whole tutorial with the extended part at the end and it's a good time. So yeah. All right, so chops might look a little intimidating and confusing, but it's important to realize that underneath it all, it's still just a side swap 3. And that means that it's a basic 3-ball cascade. It's just that you're doing a cool choppy drag in between each throw in order to make it look fancy. But it's still just a cascade. Okay, let's break it down. Let's start with 2 balls. So with 2 balls, we're gonna practice that first drag. We're gonna start by raising our hand up and having 1 ball underneath. Now this is almost gonna be like an underhand throw right here. And as we do that, we're just gonna drag, not like that. As we do that, we're just gonna drag this hand down. So the balls are gonna sort of trade places. As this ball goes up, this ball is gonna go down. Then when that ball starts coming down, you're gonna throw the ball in your hand up and catch the other one coming down. When you're throwing that underhand throw, try aiming it a little bit diagonally to the outside. So we're gonna throw it almost like a normal cascade throw. It's just a little more outside than usual. Now practice that little pop-up move on each side. So a few things about this exercise. What I don't want you to do is throw that underhand ball first and then try to chop. That's not how the timing should work. Your hand should already be up here as you're starting the throw. And then they're going to literally trade places like a seesaw. And I like to sort of grab that ball coming down in an upward motion so that I end up here. So with clubs, we're gonna do that same thing. Pop up. Now with clubs, we're gonna add an extra little step, or flourish rather. As we're chopping this club down, we're gonna loosen our grip and slide the club down to the knob. That's going to elongate the throw and really make it like accentuated and look more choppy. It's really the secret to making chops look awesome with clubs. And so just practice that 2-club exercise. If you can't do it with 2, you can't do it with 3, as I always say. Once you feel good with it though, let's pick up a 3rd ball and or a 3rd club. Both. All right, now with 3, we're gonna do that exact same thing we were just doing with the 2 balls and the seesaw teeter-totter thing, except this time, when we do that, we're gonna then lift the opposite hand immediately. So it's gonna go, so as this hand comes down, that hand goes up. And we can do it the other way. See how my hand immediately pops up? Next, you're just gonna do another chop. 1, 2, 1, 2. And see how immediately when one hand is coming down, you lift up the other hand. And then you can do 3. 1, 2, 3, and then stop. 1, 2, 3, stop. 1, 2, 3, stop. Then add a 4th row and a 5th row, and eventually you'll be running chops like a freaking fruit ninja. Yeah. So if you're working on this with clubs, there's one thing that I think is really important that helped me a lot when learning it, and that is that you want to throw your underhand throws in like a lofty single. If you end up doing it too low, it's going to be very fast and difficult. Now that's fine if that's your intention, but when you're first learning, try really getting those like underhand throws very lofty. You really want to give yourself that time and that freedom to do a full extension of your chop so that you can pop it back up. But when you pop it back up, you need to make sure it's a nice lofty single. That is the secret to doing chops with clubs. If you remember that, it should be a lot easier. If you're rushing it, it's gonna spin too much and you're not gonna be able to have time to fully extend your arm. Now that's the other thing I want to talk about. A stylistic thing when you're doing chops is that you really want to extend your arm fully when you're doing the chop. I personally think this looks better. I also think that's true for balls. I tend to bring my arm very accentuated through the middle. Now you can do chops in a very not choppy way, and that has a cool look too. It's totally valid. I think it's personally harder to do with clubs if you choose to do it that way. This is a lot harder on my wrists. It's a lot harder to maintain. It's faster. If you slow those clubs down, get a nice lofty pattern, and maintain that loftiness, you're gonna have a lot easier time. I also recommend trying to practice getting into it from just a basic 3-ball cascade. And if you're gonna do that, I'd make your pattern a little higher and slower than usual. Like if you juggle right here, try slowing it down and then just doing 1. And what you're doing is this ball is coming down and you're gonna scoop it out and come down the middle. Just like that exercise with 2 balls. Nice and slow. Two, 3, 4, 5. And that's especially true if you're doing it with clubs. Start with a nice, slow, lofty pattern. And that's chops. Now you might be having some hard things that you're getting stuck on. I already kind of covered a few of them, but just to reiterate, here are the common mistakes that I see when people are learning chops. The biggest one is with clubs when you're just trying to do it too fast. And that's just really hard to do unless you already can do the trick. So really slow your pattern down, create a nice wide pattern, a little bit wider than you normally would, and a little bit slower and loftier than you normally would. And that should really help you be able to maintain it and also just make it look better. The other thing you might be doing is if you're throwing the balls too straight up and down, you're not gonna have any room to go into the middle. You wanna make sure that underhand throw is going outward and even a little bit wider than you would normally do it. Because you're gonna be pulling that ball to the outside, you kinda wanna make it to the outside already so that it's easy to grab and drag up to do a chop. All right, that's it. That's what chops is. I hope this tutorial helped you. If it did, please consider subscribing and checking out the rest of my videos on my channel. I do fun practice videos and I have a lot more tutorials already made and coming soon. So subscribe, turn on notifications, and if you want to go the extra mile, you can go to my Otter Club on Patreon and become an otter, where you can get exclusive content as well as an extended version of not only this tutorial, but a lot of other ones that I've made. The extended version of this tutorial has an additional trick called outside chops, which is just a really fun variation of what we just learned. So if you want immediate access to that, you can go get that right now on my Patreon. There's a link in the description. Thanks for watching and good luck. 1, 2, or drop them. That can happen also. Difficult, like this is actually a cool looking trick. You could accentuate it. Hey, I made a trick. I just made up a new trick.